Yerushalayim liot achoshi be'artzenu b'eretz Tzion Yerushalayim. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
To the American Committee for Shaare Zedek Medical Center Women's Division Luncheon 2014. My name is Debbie Kestenbaum, and I am the president of the Women's Division. Today, we are paying tribute to an all-star cast of women who have each played significant roles for our hospital for decades and who each embody different aspects of our hospital. One of the things that makes Shaare Zedek unique is our reputation as the hospital with a heart. Since its inception, Shaare Zedek has been known for its commitment to compassionate patient care, for treating patients as individuals, not as diseases. The truth is, there is no one who personifies warmth and heart like Weinbach, and most likely none of us would be here today if not for the vision, dynamic energy, and creative flair she founded our women's division upon. Since I was a child, Lee has been a role model for me in her incredible ability to forge lasting and meaningful relationships and bring women of all ages together for the benefit of the hospital. When I agreed to serve as the president of the Women's Division, I knew that I was stepping into enormous shoes, and it is only thanks to her mentoring, her love and support, and her guidance that we have been able to take her life's work into the next generation. Lee, Shaare Zedek would not be what it is today if not for all that you have done for so many years. In recent years, what has perhaps become Shaare Zedek's #1 claim to fame is that with more than 20,000 babies born at Shaare Zedek each year, we are now the largest maternity unit in the entire Western world. We have also taken our commitment to women's health to the next level this past year by opening a comprehensive breast health center. Today we pay tribute to Hadassah Lieberman, a woman who has made it her personal mission to give a voice to women's health. Her longtime connection to Shaare Zedek dates back to the 90s when she organized a Shaare Zedek Women's Health mission to Israel. We are honored that she has agreed to let us honor her here today. As many of you know, in December of 2012, Shaare Zedek took over Berger Hospital. Established nearly 190 years ago in the old city of Jerusalem, Berger was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy and about to close. With Jerusalem poised to lose its downtown hospital, the Israeli government approached Shaare Zedek and asked them to submit a bid for taking over Berger. In the last days of December 2012, the deal was finalized, and Shaare Zedek Medical Center City Center Campus was established. Zelda Berger has been a longtime friend to Shaare Zedek and a critical member of our women's division for many, many years. What you may not know is that her mother-in-law, Rose Berger, was devoted to raising money for Berger for years. The merger of these two historic hospitals created the perfect opportunity for us to say thank you to Zelda and her family for all that they have done to benefit the healthcare needs of the citizens of Jerusalem for generations. I would like to personally welcome the chair of our national board, Menno Ratzer, and Senator Joe Lieberman is supposed to be with us. I'm not sure if he's here yet. No. And acknowledge the Shaare Zedek benefactors who are here with us today. Dr. Miriam Weinbach, Dr. Fania Geisfeld-Heller, Jean Block, Gloria Cayley, Ann Lieberman, Cyril Kushner, Linda Lala, and Ruth Shapiro. Lastly, I would like to thank our spectacular Luncheon Chair and Women's Division Vice President, Fran Kubietsky, who has once again outdone herself. Her elegant style, creative flair, and deep commitment to Shaare Zedek are the hallmarks of this event. And with that, let's continue with our program. It is my honor to introduce one of the executive members of our Women's Division and a past Women's Honoree, Bossie Gold.
Before you begin, I'd like to just say something on the note of Debbie. My grandson, Jason, my daughter's son, is in Israel in the Tivarius of the year. He called me yesterday and said, Bobby, can I get a tour of Shaare Zedek Hospital? I said, of course. I called up Marla in the office, and this morning he said to me he's going with a friend. On the way back, I spoke to him in the car in the Shaker, and he tells me he went with Jacob Testament. It's a very small world. They had a wonderful tour, and they had a very, very good time. I have to schedule as well, Bella. Is this okay? Lee wasn't able to attend our luncheon today, but she's listening via the Lee, this quote epitomizes your being. A loving heart is the beginning of all knowledge. What is the first privilege and honor I have to introduce our beloved honorary president and co-chairperson of the board, Lee Weinbach, the recipient of this afternoon's special tribute presentation. I have known Lee as a dear friend for at least 40 years. I met her as an owner and director, together with her husband David Olshow, of that wonderful summer camp Labin. There she cared for my children and the many campers in her usual manner with love, warmth, and humor, as they grew and matured into productive young adults. The lessons of responsibility and compassion that Lee taught my kids did them well as they became responsible family members and commenced their own professional and business careers. After a successful camp career, Lee told me that she was in Erica and Rudy Jesselsen's over-shoulder home when she was asked to start another career and to assume the presidency of our women's division. After some coaching, Lee acquiesced. Her DNA of caring, determination, strength, and love, and a whimsical manner continued to guide her in attracting many new women of sundry backgrounds, ages, professions, and careers. She increased the number of our members to new highs each and every year of her tenure. Her charisma, charm, kindness, and the twinkle in her eye enabled her to create a social and philanthropic environment where all of our members were made to feel welcome and meaningful in this place. Throughout, Lee's husband, David Olshow, was always by her side, a source of encouragement and a proud and enduring partner. Lee has now had the blessing to observe how vibrant our women's division has become due to her enrollment efforts, and she is most deserving of having the honor of President Emeritus bestowed upon her. Lee has taught us all that we can enjoy each other's company in love, friendship, and entertainment, while simultaneously supporting our beloved Shaare Zedek Hospital. Lee has been the motivating force inspiring all of our members to raise very substantial sums for the hospital. This has assisted the hospital's steady growth into a world-renowned state-of-the-art institution, which helps all people in need of superb medical capabilities. I am elated and pleased to present this magnificent day for artwork to Lee Weinbach, whose delightful granddaughter, Ora Weinbach, will accept her. dynamic energy committed to excellence has helped Shaare Zedek to forge lifelong friendships to the benefit of the hospital, and she sets the standard for women's National Women's Division, American Shaare Zedek, Jerusalem, May 14, 2014. Deborah Kessler, President, Fran Tobias, Executive Vice President, Rachel, Chief Operating
Hi. I'm truly honored to be here to Shaare Zedek award on behalf of my grandmother. She's sorry she couldn't be here today, but she was deeply touched by your recognition and appreciation. Those of you who know my grandmother personally know what a special woman she is. She carries herself with a certain air of poise and dignity and class, silently inviting those around her to rise to her impeccable standards. Through my childhood, she brought me to museums and orchestras, sharing her impressive knowledge of New York City and love of culture. She taught me many things: refined table manners, songs from her days running Jewish summer camps, and the fact that it is quite inappropriate to take off your shoes during an opera performance. My grandmother, Weinbach, brought this sophistication, appreciation of aesthetics, and fun to everything that she did. Shaare Zedek has been an important part of my grandmother's life for as long as I can remember. Every year, she gives me one of those little red Women's Division calendars. Every year, she invites me to the ballet. And every year, she tells me of the flurry of activities surrounding this luncheon. She devotes her passion and energy, her heart and soul to this wonderful organization, and it has been a major part of her life for many years. Weinbach is a force to be reckoned with. Her passion and dedication, I honestly believe that she can do anything. Never aggressive or confrontational, my grandmother overcomes any obstacles that dare stand in her way with subtlety, diplomacy, and tact. I am truly fortunate to have my grandmother as my role model in my life. I strive to emulate her tireless dedication to the community, her confidence as a public figure, her love of chesed, and her success as a wife and mother. And grandmother. She takes these diverse roles in stride, always with humility and grace. She is a woman who does it all, and yet no one has ever heard her boast of her innumerable accomplishments. It is for this reason that I am honored to be here on my grandmother's behalf, to have the opportunity to speak of her personality and accomplishments in a way which she is far too humble to have done herself. She is deeply appreciative of receiving this recognition from an organization that she truly loves. Thank you.
Good afternoon. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rachel Lieberman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the American Committee for Shaare Zedek. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would just like to quickly thank our amazing team of professionals for all that they do: Sharon Goldwyn, Maury Liebman, Shaare Zedek, Shuli Levine, Rebecca Cabot, Alex Estrada, and Rob Kern. I'd also like to thank our amazing Women's Division President, Debbie Kestenbaum, for her incredible energy and deep passion for Shaare Zedek. It is truly an honor to work with her each and every day, finding new and creative ways to bring support to our hospital. And lastly, on behalf of the American Committee, I would like to thank the chair of our luncheon, Frank Tobias, whose incredible talents and dedication will make our luncheon success each and every day. And for those of you who don't know, I'd like to personally thank Fran. Fran is an amazing woman in my life. Fran is the person who's responsible for friending in my first apartment, and she found me my husband. So, the lesson here is, if you want to find your daughter or your granddaughter's a husband, find an apartment with Fran. This has been a public service announcement. We're going to take a short break for the servers to clear their plates, and we're going to continue with our program in just about 10 minutes or so. Thank you. It is my great honor this afternoon to introduce our keynote speaker, Yossi Siegel. Start with a joke. Come on, you're going to want to hear the joke. A man goes to his doctor because he hasn't been feeling well for days. After doing several tests, the doctor gives the man several sets of pills with the following instructions. Take the green pill with 2 big glasses of water when you wake up. An hour later, take the white pill with another glass of water. Mid-afternoon, take the orange pill with plenty of water, and then just before going to bed, take the red pill with several glasses of water. The man is quite alarmed at the huge volume of medicines I'm given to take, and nervously he asks, "What's the diagnosis? What's wrong with me?" With a smile on his face, the doctor answers, "Don't worry, you're going to live, you're just dehydrated." So while the joke is a little funny, okay, I'm not giving up my job, don't worry. The truth is water, the preservation of water, and the necessity for water to provide sustenance is no laughing matter. Our keynote speaker today, Mr. Yossi Siegel, is currently writing a book on Israel's water resources. His op-ed, titled "Israeli Water Mideast Peace," was recently published in the New York Times, and his essay, "A Middle East Accord, No Diplomats Needed," appeared in the Wall Street Journal. Yossi is a businessman, a communal activist, and a writer who has co-founded several companies in different fields, including 3 that are now international businesses. A native of New York and currently an Upper West Sider, he received his undergraduate and law degrees from Cornell University and studied international relations as a graduate student at Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Following his career as an assistant district attorney, Yossi worked as a litigation associate and criminal defense attorney. He sits on the boards of several major organizations, including AIPAC, and has lectured throughout the United States. Yossi has been quoted in countless print and electronic media outlets and has appeared on the NBC Nightly News, The Today Show, and is a regular guest on CNBC. In addition to being my neighbor, Yossi and I are the proud spouses of officers of the Jewish Center, and I'd like to welcome his wife, Rachel Ringler, who is with us. And you're in for a big treat today, so without further ado, I present Yossi.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. And it was really quite a pleasure when Rachel asked me if I could come dress you well today to say yes. I also just want to say quickly what a pleasure it is to share this podium a little later, I guess, with Hadassah Lieberman, somebody who's a wonderful person, inspiration for many of us, and her husband, who I think is what? Joe Lieberman, right? And there aren't a lot of guys here, so you'll do it. But it's really a great honor to have you here as well. So thank you so much. It's also a special pleasure for me to be able to see my wife in the middle of the workday. So I'm really totally glad that at table 19, Rachel Ringler is sitting there. Last week, we celebrated the 66th anniversary of the State of Israel. Especially as people in this room know, Israel may have declared its independence in May of 1948, but the state began long before. For those of you with a long historical memory, you know that the first inklings of the country began even before the start of the British Mandate. When Shaare Zedek opened its doors and began to care for the sick, and when Shaare Zedek invited doctors arriving in Ottoman Palestine to join its growing staff, those were important, if early, examples of building state institutions. In the many ways that a hospital anchors a community, Shaare Zedek did that too. But even more, it was among the first of all Israeli state institutions in the modern era. Would there have been a state of Israel if Shaare Zedek had never been created? The answer to that is likely somewhere between perhaps and probably. But it was the confidence and wisdom that impelled the founders of Shaare Zedek that served as a model for those who followed. Shaare Zedek inspired others. Without Shaare Zedek and other institutions like it, there would have been almost no chance that only a few decades later, the State of Israel would have been founded. So aside from the remarkable healthcare Shaare Zedek has provided for so long, I want to say bravo to all the people involved in the founding of Shaare Zedek, and of course, the founders and current staff of Shaare Zedek didn't act alone. They had all of you and donors going back generations by their side. So thank you. I've been thinking a lot about this issue of how the state got founded and the importance of pre-state institutions because for the past year or two, I've been closely studying another institution that predates the establishment of the State of Israel, which also played a key part in the birth of the country. And that is the issue of the role of water in the land of Israel. Although Shaare Zedek goes back to the Ottoman era, the origins of the nation go back to the time of the last period of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel, ending about 2,000 years ago with the destruction of the Second Temple. We know that our ancient forebears were masters of water management. King Hezekiah, from some 2,900 years ago, saved Jerusalem from an Assyrian siege by finding a water source outside of the city. Our Bible tells us that King Hezekiah directed 2 teams of laborers to chop through a mountain from opposite directions to make sure that a protected spring would keep Jerusalem watered for as long as the siege might last. It's really quite a remarkable feat if you think about it. Without any modern equipment, not any modern GPS equipment, not any modern digging equipment, to go on opposite sides of a mountain and dig through and to create an opening for a spring. The Assyrian army didn't know about that spring, and they assumed that the siege would sooner or later cause a need for water within the city of Jerusalem, and that there would be a surrender. But in fact, what happened was the city had all the water it needed, and over time, the Assyrian army fell victim to a plague while they waited for Jerusalem to capitulate. It was especially bad news for them that there was no Shaare Zedek there at that time to take them in, because they died in very large numbers, and the few survivors limped back north to Assyria, leaving a surviving and thriving Jewish kingdom in Jerusalem. Just as our military today is an incubator of many innovations and inventions that become widely adopted in civilian society, this was also true of the water innovations of our ancient kings. It turned out that the same water systems that were developed to be impervious to attack could also be used for irrigation. With more food to grow in ancient Israel, farmers grew wealthier and healthier, and the population grew. Population statistics will figure in significantly in part of what I have to share with you today. Many here may be surprised to know what historians think was the population of the last days of the Second Temple period. The best guess, I was amazed when I learned this some time ago, the best guess is that there were 4 million people in the land of Israel, with a few scholars pegging that number a bit lower, and a few even think it might have been as high as 5 or even 6 million people. This is important because it means that at one time, the developed water resources of the land of Israel were sophisticated and comprehensive enough to grow food and to provide drinking water and sanitation and even ritual baths for a very large population. The 7 species listed in the Bible weren't all irrigated just with rain. A few hundred years after the Second Temple was destroyed and the Jews exiled, all of those wonderful water systems that were built up over hundreds of years began to fall, to decay, and they ultimately collapsed. The great water system of Palestine was gone. But there was an historical memory of a once abundant Jewish state in the ancient homeland. I'm going to jump now forward many years to April of 1939. In April of 1939, the British mandate was in full force in Palestine, and the British Empire was still a dominant power around the world. April 39 was just over 20 years from the issuance of the Balfour Declaration, the promise by the British government to support the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. But cynically, by April 1939, the Balfour Declaration had been mostly forgotten by the British government, and especially the British Foreign Office making the rules in Palestine. And the reason for this was that from 1936 to 1939, the Palestinian Arabs began a prolonged riot and murderous rampages against Jewish immigration. They murdered many, many Jews and even killed many British soldiers and officers. At first, the British attempted to put down the riots with force, but the British ultimately decided to appease the rioters. Instead of confronting this criminal behavior, the British announced a severe limitation on Jewish immigration into Palestine. The British Empire was the greatest force in the world at the time, and there was no way that the British Empire would say that it was bending in fear some local Muslim extremists in its time. Instead, what did the British say? They announced in a document that some of you may have heard of called the White Paper of 1939, that they were limiting Jewish immigration because the territory of Palestine, they said, lacked adequate water resources to absorb more people. The population of what today is Israel and Gaza and the West Bank at that time was less than 2 million people. And the British said that the upper limit for that whole territory was no more than 2 million. The British brought in economists and agronomists, and they too concurred that 2 million was about all that the land of Israel could hold. With immigration the lifeblood of the Zionist movement, the limitations of the white paper choked the Zionist state and its building efforts. But David Ben-Gurion, the leader of the Jewish community, didn't have many options. Weak, powerless, and stateless, the Zionist movement mostly acquiesced to the British immigration restrictions. Of course, as bad as the white paper of '39 was for the Zionist movement, it was far worse, immeasurably worse, of course, for the millions of Jews and increasingly frantic Jews trapped in Europe. April 1939 and the white paper wasn't the start of the war. That didn't come until about 6 months later, in September of 1939, with the invasion of Poland. But the handwriting was on the wall. The Nazi pogrom called Kristallnacht had been just a few months earlier, in November of 1938. Everyone knew that it wasn't a good time to be a Jew in Europe, even if everyone didn't yet know just how badly it was going to turn out. No one wanted to take Jews in, except for the Zionist movement in the land of Israel, but the powerful British Empire wouldn't let them enter. The land of Israel today, that is to say, once again, Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank, has about 12 million people. Israel has a little more than 8 million, and the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank have somewhere between 3.5 and 4 million people. In other words, when the British said in 1939 that the land of Israel couldn't absorb more than 2 million people, they weren't just wrong in moral terms, they were wrong, spectacularly wrong, in economic and policy terms as well. The British experts had done what is called a static analysis. That is, they assumed that the water resources of 1939 would forever be the extent of the available water. And this led the British experts to decide, or maybe even to rationalize, that there was only enough water for 2 million people. That they said that there was such and such amount of rain every year, and thus such amount of water coming from the Jordan River every year. But they surely did not take account in their estimates that the Zionists would innovate and completely rethink how to access water, how to use water, and even how to reuse water. For anyone here who has been to Israel, I'm just going to guess that would be a large number of the people in this room. Maybe some of the waiters haven't been there yet, but we'll have a program for that as well. You know from your experiences traveling in Israel that Israel does not ration water. Indeed, you know that the 8 million people of Israel today have healthy, reliable, safe water available whenever they turn on the tap. And that may be something that we New Yorkers assume is the norm everywhere, but the truth is that most of the world does not have that water experience. Most of the world today is like the world that the British experts assumed was the case in 1939. Limited water resources, frequent rationing, irregular availability, and poor quality. So let's explore for a minute or two how this happened. How were the Jewish citizens of the state of Israel able to beat nature and quadruple or even sextuple the estimates of the British experts? And the answer is that Israel has been thinking about solutions to its water stresses long before these became crises. When waves of immigrants arrived or war broke out, or even when one of several long droughts pushed freshwater assets to historically low levels, water planners in Israel were ready with ideas and solutions. Some were stopgap ideas, and some of the attempts were failures, but overall these gave way to systemic approaches to water. Nobody saw a magical solution. The leadership and citizens understood that many different paths would be needed simultaneously. And it is that all of the above approach that makes Israel so remarkable in managing its water for today and long into the future. Israel's self-sufficiency in water goes beyond big areas like smart irrigation, like deep drilling for water, desalination, and the broad use of reclaimed water. It's also dependent on a lot of other tricks, like sophisticated legal and regulatory structure, smart use of pricing, lots of scientific innovation, lots of education of people why they should conserve, and an obsession on fixing leaks, and attempts to catch rainwater, and even efforts to stop or reduce the amount of evaporation, among many other tools. And so in this process, Israel has transformed water from a struggle with nature to an economic input. They tell the people of Israel that they can get all of the water they want if they're willing to plan for it and to pay for it. And let me just say to you, this is revolutionary. It's no different in a way than the revolution that farming created a couple of thousand years ago. when food became from a struggle with nature to suddenly food became a question of what are you prepared to pay for it, and what are your choices and what do you want. What has happened now, especially in Israel, and we're going to see in a moment the rest of the world with opportunity, is the opportunity to rethink water in a completely new and radical way. And the reason why this is so relevant is, again, we may not feel it here in New York, but I promise you, as you start to read your daily newspapers, you're going to start seeing more and more of this. The world is on the cusp of a global water crisis. Our population is now about 7 billion, but it's estimated to grow to 9 billion before it levels off. That is a lot of new people needing water to drink, to wash with, and to grow food for. The world is also becoming more affluent, and the more money you have, the more water you consume. Long hot showers are the least of it. An affluent diet is enormously more water-consuming than a grain-based poor person's diet, something that a couple of statistics that may shock. A pound of beef is 17 times more water-intensive than a pound of corn. A pound of corn is what poor people eat, but a pound of beef is what lots of us have in our diet. So massively more amounts of water are needed. In addition, energy, we don't think about this much in our day-to-day life, but energy is an enormous consumer of water. Air conditioners, computers, refrigerators, which poor people don't have, and we all assume is part of middle-class life, takes an enormous amount of water to produce. Even simple things like manufacturing a pair of blue jeans takes more than 1,000 gallons of water to prepare. So while demand will be growing, supply will be falling. And the reason for that is, number one, climate change is changing the way that surface water responds to the environment. Lots of it is evaporating now. Water supplies are growing more and more polluted, so there's less of that available. And finally, water systems all over the world, including here in the US, are growing older and are more prone to severe leakage. In New York City, shocking number again, about 35% of the water that comes into our system never gets into your homes and offices because of leaks. It's a remarkable loss every day. The only way that the world will avoid turning these water stresses into a generational water crisis is with the adoption of technological solutions. And guess which country already has tested and implemented successful solutions to the water crisis? You got it. Now, there are countries other than Israel that take water seriously, and there are parts of the world that do as well. And some countries excel at part of the water equation already, but no country anywhere in the world does what Israel does in the scope of what it does. Saudi Arabia desalinates some water, and Spain treats some of its wastewater, and many countries use drip irrigation, and there's other techniques that people use, but there is no other country that makes such broad use of so many different techniques in the pursuit of safe, consistently available, and healthy water. Part of what Israel has also done is that when it believes in a technology or an approach, it goes all in. For example, I mentioned a moment or two ago drip irrigation. Drip irrigation was invented in Israel and is now widely in use around the world. It saves enormous amounts of water because instead of flooding a whole field and hoping that a couple of drops hit the roots, this just goes right to the roots and just drops what it needs. But Israel doesn't just use drip irrigation here and there. 75% of the irrigated fields in Israel have drip irrigation, and no other country anywhere in the world even uses a fraction of that process. A few years ago, Israel didn't use desalinated water. Now about half of all drinking water in Israel is desalinated. And even sewage has been transformed, I'm sorry I mentioned it at lunch, but even sewage has been transformed from a burden to an opportunity to save water. Over 85% of Israel's wastewater gets purified and returned for agricultural use to irrigate crops like cotton or date palms. And this saves about 50% of all of Israel's annual water needs for agriculture. And if, by the way, if there's a yuck factor in the thought of sewage being reused for agriculture, which I had initially when I heard about this, I just want to tell you that the trend line is such that the world will not be able to grow its food over the coming decades if it is not using this technique. So get used to it. And when I say that Israel uses so much of its wastewater, 85%, the next greatest user of wastewater in the world is Spain at 17%. And our country, despite the droughts and water shortages in California, the Southwest, Texas, the Southeast, and so forth, we use less than 1% of this. Again, it'll be in our future. Not everything Israel has done in water is relevant everywhere or to everyone. Some countries have large land masses, some have lots of rain, some have lots of lakes. But even so, some part of what Israel has done can help to transform the water governance of every country. If nothing else, Israel's focus on water and its priority and the country's national consciousness can be an inspiration to leaders and water professionals everywhere. So Israel has lots to offer everywhere in the world with this inspiring story. And I'll even go so far as to say that the region where it probably has the most to offer is the region least willing to accept it, and that is its own neighbors in the Middle East. Israel has the same theoretical problems as all of its neighbors: creeping deserts, periodic droughts, fast-growing populations, and so forth. Yet nonetheless, right now, Israel has been unable to break through to its neighbors and to share these techniques with them. We shouldn't ever hope for greater problems and stresses for anyone in the world, including Israel's neighbors, but I actually have a hope that as the water crisis grows, and it is growing severely in the Middle East right now, that Israel's dominance and, in fact, abundance of currently supplied water may actually open the door to a new dialogue and a new relationship between Israel and its neighbors. And Israel has taken these learnings of different kinds and shared them not just with, the reason why they can share them with their neighbors is they've already shared them with more than 100 countries around the world. And that as the demand and supply for water go increasingly out of balance, Israeli water technology and ideology are likely to be a key part of the solution. So I want to say in closing that the message of Israel's water miracle is that it doesn't really take a miracle at all. It takes planning and experimentation and a culture open to new ideas, even in such conservative and innovation-averse areas as agriculture, engineering, and utilities. Although praying for rain is a universal ritual from place to place and from time to time, it is the only assuring that farmers and consumers will have sufficient water for their various and often essential needs. Just as Shaare Zedek helped lead the way in the creation of the State of Israel with smart and advanced tools and techniques in caring for a large number of people, the State of Israel today will lead the way in helping the world use its water in smart and advanced ways to give the largest number of people a higher quality of life. The Zionist dream included the prophetic teaching that the Jewish people would be a light unto the nations. In medicine, and now in water, the dream is fulfilled.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Lehrer, and I'm a member of the Shaare Zedek National Board, as well as a longtime member of the Women's Division Board. Allow me to add my personal congratulations to Zelda Berger, a pillar of tzedakah and chesed for so many good causes. And to dear Weinbach, our true visionary chair and past president, who has inspired me and so many here today as mentor and teacher. We love you and are delighted to have the opportunity to honor you. Today, we pay tribute to a woman who really needs no introduction, but who deserves our accolades and our thanks for the role she has played for women, for healthcare, and for our own Shaare Zedek for decades. Hadassah Lieberman has dedicated much of her life's work to health issues, assisting nonprofit organizations, improving educational standards, and promoting international understanding. Her focus on global women's health issues has reinforced her belief that health diplomacy is of utmost importance, and that prevention and treatments of women's health problems build a natural commonality. Most recently, Hadassah worked with Susan G. Komen for the Cure as a global ambassador to create sustainable breast cancer outreach and educational programs around the world. In addition to her professional responsibilities, Hadassah has also devoted considerable time and energy to community service, which has included Best Friends, Meridian House, and the Auschwitz Jewish Center Foundation. Hadassah was born in Prague, Czech Republic, and in 1949 moved with her family to Gardner, Massachusetts. She was graduated from Boston University after spending 2 years at Stern College for Women with a degree in government and dramatics, and received a master's degree in international relations and American government from Northeastern University. Hadassah is married to our own Senator Joseph Lieberman, who himself was a Shaare Zedek honoree just a few years ago at our national dinner. It's an honor to have you here, Senator. This time, share it in your wife's honor. Today, together, you make a wonderful first couple for Shaare Zedek. Hadassah has been a longtime supporter and friend to Shaare Zedek, and even organized and led the 1998 Shaare Zedek delegation to Israel as part of the 1998 National Women's Health Conference in Jerusalem. We are so very fortunate to count the Liebermans as integral members of the Shaare Zedek family, and know that we can always count on you whenever they are needed. On a personal note, I've had the distinct pleasure to work alongside Hadassah for Women's Philanthropy, a division of UJA Federation, and she's truly not only capable, but a wonderful person. Please join me in honoring Hadassah Lieberman.
I'm very touched by those words. And you must understand, when they invited me, I said, okay, how long do you want me to speak? And it's 3 to 5 minutes max, so you're lucky. Anyway, I want to first talk about light. And when I say light, I think about how lights shine out at the world and in specific directions. So my first light is my husband, who I really appreciate his joining. And it's in tribute to Shaare Zedek that he did that. And Menno Ratsker, another real light for this special place. And I was thinking of Jackie Bentime, and I was thinking of all kinds of people who are here, who are not here. And my thanks really goes out. When I talk about light, I was thinking, we always dress up and we have a beautiful hat, or we have a beautiful dress, or we have gorgeous colors, you know, all the stuff, the nail polish. The real light shines through your eyes as you give to worthy organizations. It's that light, and you know who you are. You know everyone here has it, and you know what you do in the world. Because believe it or not, as we see oftentimes, there's a dimming. There's not enough light. There's not enough people who can say, I believe. I believe in that. I believe in this organization. I believe these people are helping. And so stand up proud, pat yourselves on the back and say, I'm a believer, I'm a giver, and it's because of me that you have the report you heard today that was startling. In the midst of this difficult economic crisis of times, difficult political world, Shaare Zedek is shining its light in Israel. So, without further ado, before I go over my time limit, I thank you sincerely, and just walk out of here proud of what you've done and proud to tell others to join us. Because you know the Hebrew phrase, ain't brera? You have no choice. You gotta do it. So as much as we all compliment each other, ain't brera. So good luck.
Good afternoon. I am Sharon Golden, the Director of the Northeast Region of Shaare Zedek. Today, we are really thrilled to honor Zelda Berger. Zelda has been involved for many, many years in the women's division activities. Along with her husband, Saul, they are diamond founders of Shaare Zedek. She is a long-time women's division board member, a $1,000 club member, a contributor to many, many projects too long to list, including the Nava Applebaum Fund. As a friend and a neighbor in Great Neck, everybody knows that Zelda is energetic, dynamic, and a woman of chesed. She is cherished by her husband, her children, Debbie and Mayor Avitan, Benji and Blimi Berger, her grandchildren, and of course, her great-granddaughter. One of Shaare Zedek's strengths is being a multi-generational organization involving people of all ages, from bat mitzvah age, college, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. It is therefore most fitting today that we honor Zelda, and Zelda honors her mother-in-law, Rose Berger, Zichronah Livracha, who devoted herself to raising funds for Berger Cholim, which is now a part of Shaare Zedek Medical Center. We are very privileged to ask Debbie Avitan, Zelda's daughter, who is also a member of the Women's Division Board, to present the award to her mother. Debbie, please come up.
Life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. I've been asked to introduce to you a woman very dear to me, my remarkable mother, Zelda Berger. This past Sunday commemorated the 100th anniversary of Mother's Day. Over 130 million cards were sold and around $20 billion was spent on gifts. In lieu of a gift this year, and being part of that statistic, my brother and I made a donation in honor of our mother to Shaare Zedek Hospital. However, ultimately, Mother's Day is not about celebrating the institution of motherhood. It's entirely about our own personal mother and recognizing her unique role and contribution to our lives. To many of you, Zelda Berger needs no introduction. For those of you who really know my mother, know how much I can be proud of all that she has done and continues to do. And I'm not talking about her tennis and mahjong games. I won't embarrass her publicly by giving you a laundry list of all the organizations and charities she helps, but she has selflessly given of herself to family, friends, and community here and in Israel. Just ask my dad how many times he's being schlepped along to all kinds of events that my mom is either cheering or on the committee of or just contributing money to. My parents have always taught us by example to not be shy, get involved, and do what we can to help those in need. Shaare Zedek Hospital is one of the organizations that my mother is passionate about and dedicates her time and money to. She's been a board member of the women's organization for over 20 years and has instilled that love for the hospital in me so that I too became a board member. Wherever I go, I can introduce myself as Zelda Berger's daughter. I know that someone will have a good word to say about her. I hope when my children and granddaughter introduce themselves as Zelda Avitan's kids, they feel even half as proud as they always feel about my mother. Introducing my mother, Gigi Zelda Berger. Can you believe this blonde tennis player is a great-grandma?
Everything you said about me is true. I am humbled and honored to be selected to this year's Luncheon honoree by the Berger Committee for Shaare Zedek Women's Division, of which I am a frequent client. For 30 years I've been attending this luncheon and have sat in the Oh, I'm sorry, you could hear me? Okay. I'll make it louder. So as you know, I've been a frequent flyer of this organization. For 30 years, I've attended this luncheon. I think I missed 2 years because of deaths in the family. But I've attended and have sat in the audience like you and you, doing right now. And at one time, one of the honorees had said this, and I quote her, when you are honored, it is a great mitzvah, like the mitzvah of Morer. Now that I'm standing here, I have a different perspective, and I do not agree with this view. I think being honored is more like the mitzvah of sipping Shabbos wine that is blended by distinct different grapes. I learned this from a friend of mine, a sommelier, who told me that when you blend different grapes, you have a really terrific outcome. And I was thinking of that in relation to the blending of the two hospitals, Shaare Zedek and Berger Hospital. And the result will be great medicine, great creative medicine, and great patient care, which we all want a hospital to have. I'm accepting this award in memory of my mother-in-law, Rose Razel Berger, Aleha Hashalom. She came to the shore, she came to America. I'm thinking we're standing right here before the Statue of Liberty. In the interbellum period, the period between the two world wars. She settled here, married, had 3 children, and raised them beautiful. One is my husband, Saul Berger. In 1945, she got the message that her parents, her 2 brothers, a sister, a brother-in-law, and a niece had perished in the Holocaust 3 years prior. The entire town was wiped out. She came from a town called Frystik, Poland. To combat this terrible tragedy, this terrible news, she immersed herself in all kinds of charities. In 1948, when Israel became a state, and Israel became Israel became free. You know what happened in 1948? My mother-in-law became a volunteer for Berger in America, for Berger Hospital in Israel. She by herself, solely and self-handedly amassed a large amount of money to send an American refrigerator and ambulance to Israel, something they really needed. In fact, my husband and I witnessed this because when we visited them, the result of all her hard work, when we went to Israel in 1963, we saw the refrigerator, and we did not see the ambulance, but I hope by now they have a newer one. But it was very, very nice to see that. The actual work done and the fruits of her labor. Now that Shaare Zedek, as you have heard, merged with Berger Hospital, I think it is a generation thing to be handed down matrilineally. From me to my daughter, and from my daughter to her daughter, Razi Abitan, who is named after my mother-in-law, to my daughter-in-law, Cleve, to her daughter, Alexandra, and to my great-granddaughter, Sarachaya, my Gigi. Because of my mother-in-law's work for Berger and my affiliation with Shaare Zedek Hospital, it was incumbent upon me to accept this wonderful honor and to keep working for the blended cause of amassing frequent flyer points in the Shemayim. In closing, I would like to recognize a few personalities in the room. mainly my sister Miriam, who came from Boca Raton, Florida. My Macatenista Ida Abitan from Long Beach, and Rachel Abitan from Lawrence. I have to tell you, Ida, I want to thank you publicly for the wonderful son-in-law you gave me, the wonderful doctor. Rachel, you're always there for us. She comes to every single luncheon. I really, really appreciate it. I know I heard the traffic was terrible, but what can I tell you? Whenever I had to meet my sisters from South Shore, they had to leave 45 minutes earlier. The traffic is still, they keep rebuilding those highways, but it's still terrible. My sister-in-law's in love, Ann Arbesfeld, former president of YUWO, Yeshiva University Women's Organization, Helen Laufer, and her husband, Rabbi Daniel Laufer of Kew Gardens, my flower girl and niece, Michelle Zelig, and her daughter, Daniela Schertz, and my other niece, Atara Arbesfeld. Thank you so much for coming. From Livingston, New Jersey, cousin Suzanne, cousins Michelle Berger and her mother, Elaine Steiner, cousins Connor Spiegel and Esther Barons of Lawrence, and our new friends from Livingston, New Jersey, Maggie and Sabrina Newman. My children, as you have met, you've met Mayor, you've met Deborah, Benji and Blimi, New Rochelle. My grandchildren who were able to come, some of them, Asher, Judah Max, and Razy. Acharon, Habib, I guess I have to say something about my husband. Hadassah made him numero uno. It is numero uno, but also I'd like to say that he loves me and he assists me in all my ventures and adventures. When you visit, I don't realize I'm seeing here better. When you visit Jerusalem, when you are in Yerushalayim, please visit the well-blended hospital of Shaare Zedek Bikakol, especially the magnificently equipped Department of Pediatric Emergency Medicine donated by my good friends, Drs. Miriam and Felix Lauer. May I also suggest becoming one of the Shaare Zedek Bikacholim frequent flyers. You get that by coming here every year to the luncheons. You will see and meet, and I'd love to see and meet you all the time, and all other hospital social events. Stay healthy and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.